Hello and welcome to a quick thoughts video on a film that I watched last week that has just been swirling around my head through the dark recesses of my galaxy brain for the past... What the fuck am I even talking about? I don't even know. I'm all afluster because it's hot as a motherfucker. Well, I shouldn't say that because of the algorithm. You know, you can't swear in the first 30 seconds of a fucking video, so I'll make sure not to make sure to not get demonetized, you know, by saying a word like cunt or something. Anyway, it's hot. I'm flustered. Let's just roll with it. We'll leave all that in for free. I'm here to talk to you about Message from Space. If I had the energy or inclination, I'd probably put in some kind of message from space sound effect, but I'm not going to do that. This is a new release from Eureka, another installment in the Masters of Cinema collection. I'll try that again and actually pronounce the word properly, the Masters of Cinema collection. I always get tripped up on that. Spine number 292. Just look at this gorgeous piece of art by Scott Saslow. It grabs you. And having seen the film, it's just, it's beautiful. I can't wait to really dive into this and do my full in-depth review. I've already got my notes down for it. It's going to be a long one though, so I feel like this video will kind of give you my thoughts if you're not one of those kind of people who likes the long, in-depth Blu-ray reviews. There's a lot of stuff I want to talk about in terms of the extras, in terms of not just the film itself, but the inspirations and the... Move the microphone somewhat. The inspirations, and I still want it. Yeah, okay. The inspirations and the way that the inspirations throughout cinema seem to be like a snake eating its own tail when it comes to Message from Space, Star Wars, the American Western, the space opera, right? It's so fascinating to me. And then there's just the case of the director himself, Kinji Fukasaku, who, you know, is well known for making violent kind of Yakuza films in the 70s, Battles Without Honor and Humanity, Battle Royale famously in 2000, which is kind of a seminal film of that period of time, which crossed over. I remember when I was a teenager, everyone talking about Battle Royale, and then I don't know about the origins of that, but, you know, that's a huge part of our culture now, is the Battle Royale video game format. Anyway, Kinji Fukasaku is not a name that I think of when it comes to science fiction cinema. And yet here we have this 1978 classic, which is not just the Star Wars ripoff, right? Not just a film that is in the mind of Toei, who are making this, a film that was gonna, you know, capitalize on the success of Star Wars. They wanted this to compete with Star Wars, and it's an amazing story of how this film came together because of Star Wars, but it's so much deeper than that as well. And I was looking forward to kind of the kookiness and kind of the camp, you know, special effects that wouldn't look as good as Star Wars. And it is, you know, the special effects in Star Wars were revolutionary for their time. This film certainly doesn't match or better that, but there is a charm to them and an impressive quality too. And when they announced this and there was the trailer, I was really impressed by the vibrancy of how this film looked, and I was just excited to see a Japanese sci-fi film, really, because really when it comes to Japanese cinema and me, it's, you know, it's drama or it's Jidaigeki, you know, the kind of the samurai period films, and then the Yakuza stuff I don't really go to that often, that well, but you know, that's pretty much the limitations of what I watch when it comes to Japanese films. Dramas being the main one. They're very good at dramas. And so I was just really intrigued to see how this would feel. And it felt unlike anything I'd really seen before. Yes, there's elements of Star Wars, but there's a different flavor to it. And it's just so wacky. And the one word that springs to mind with Message from Space for me is delightful. It was an absolute fucking delight to watch this film. I've now watched it twice, and that's how much of an impression it had on me. And I love the extras. There's a great extras package on this. Nice commentary, really good making of, with some really great comments from Sonny Chiba, who stars in this film as Prince Hans. Yeah, the Sonny Chiba interview stuff on this is so good. He is so charismatic. I wish there was a whole documentary about Sonny Chiba with just him talking about his life and career, because he's so good at telling stories, and he kind of dips into the English now and then as well, which is kind of fun. But yeah, a great cast, a multinational cast. You know, American actors in this. You have, you know, kind of maybe not big name Japanese actors, but certainly like a notable figure would be Hiroyuki Sanada, who's had a huge career across Japanese cinema. He's been in Hong Kong films, you know, Western cinema. You know, he was in Endgame, you know, Avengers Endgame, one of the biggest movies of all time. He recently did the new Shogun kind of revival. So seeing a young Hiroyuki Sanada was really cool. But yeah, and then Tetsuro Tanba, who absolute legend. You know, Vic Morrow in there. It's just a really interesting cast, and the design is really cool and different. And I think there's elements of this that went on to inspire later Star Wars films, and I'll say that much and leave that for my full review and show you some examples of what I mean by that. But there's so much to talk about with this because I'm so enthusiastic about it. But I wanted to make just a standalone video for anyone who won't get around to that really. And I'll tell you how much I love this, right? Because I was sent this to review by Eureka. And you know, like anyone who watches my videos, if you don't know that, I'm always honest, like completely honest. This you know, because I'm aware of the fact that me making a video about this release and talking about how much I love it, and then saying Eureka sent me it to review, may come across as disingenuous for maybe a new time viewer who isn't familiar with me or what I do. This enthusiasm is 100% pure and original. Like, I'm not often like this about some of their releases, and I enjoy most of them because I'm in the bag for it already, and that's kind of why I reached out to them to review their titles to begin with, because they're releasing stuff that I love. But it's not often that there's one that really captures my imagination and just makes me so happy that physical media still exists, that we still get releases like this of films that, I mean, I'd never heard of this. You know, I'd never heard of it before. You know, I'd heard of Kinji Fukasaku before. I'd heard of Battles Without Honor and Humanity, and of course Battle Royale I had watched in the 2000s, but had no idea he made a film like this. Had no idea he made the film like Samurai Reincarnation, which they released last year, which was a really wild samurai period film, but also supernatural elements mixed in there. The Fall of Akko Castle, more of a traditional kind of period samurai film based on an incredible true story of the 47 Ronin, which was amazing to hear all about on their Blu-ray of it. So I feel like I'm getting like an amazing education in East Asian cinema over the past 18 months alone. And then there's all sorts of other stuff, like silent releases, and so I'm just loving all of it. But this one in particular, yeah, I just feel like this is a film I'll want to watch again and again. And so you get the nice slipcover. And yeah, so I kind of went off track there, but this is how much I love the film. Obviously, I was sent this to review. I don't know if I'll be able to focus this with, let's see if I can kind of get a nice distance there for the camera. Right, if you can see there, the inlay's kind of damaged there, and it's crinkled at the bottom, and it's torn on the inlay, which is fine. You know, I mean, I get sent something to review. I'm not going to expect perfection by any stretch. But I have already ordered another copy of this, just to have a pristine copy in the collection, you know, and maybe even keep it sealed, just as kind of like a safety copy, you know, and then use this one to watch it. But I it's worth buying for me again, even though I did buy it, you know what I mean. It's worth for me supporting the release even more, you know, being sent the thing to review and to feature on my YouTube channel, then to also buy it, you know, which I certainly couldn't do for all the other ones. But yeah, I'll be buying another one of these just so I can get one without the damage on the bottom. But I don't think it even says on the Blu-ray, or was advertised at all, that you also get a poster, and a double-sided one at that. And these are like the like original English or American, and then Japanese artwork, which you might not be able to see all in frame. I'll get you a better look at this in the full. But just look at this gorgeous, like a pirate ship, you know, in space. I mean, this is how awesome this movie is. And this one, yeah, man. Japanese version here. All I can do is just sigh. I'm like a kid. It brings me back to being a kid again and being really. I just love the earnestness of this. I think what really makes Message from Space work for me is how the actors really take it seriously, and it really shines through. Like even the American actors, you know, they're not just there to. And there's a story on the Blu-ray about how Vic Morrow was basically always has a drink in hand because he was drunk throughout the making of the film, but he gives it gravitas, and you can actually hear his performance because they have the English version, the English dub, which has the actual voices of the American actors, which is such a unique feature. I don't think that's something that really happens that often. And so that's why I watched it again, because I'm also watching a different version of the film, and there is different dialogue as well. Again, I'll talk about that and show you specific examples in my full review. But that's pretty much it. Again, I want to dive into the story, and I want to just be able to just unfettered sit down and just really dive deep on this film, this release, and give you a really in-depth review of it. So look forward to that if you want to hear me blathering on more about this kind of stuff. But for me, this is a 5-star release. I just love it when this kind of thing happens where it's not something where I'm like, oh, they're releasing Message from Space. Awesome. It's like, oh, I've never heard of that. It looks really interesting. And then I watch it and it just put a big smile on my face, you know, and it was just so enjoyable, so fun. You know, is it a masterpiece? No. Is it as good as Star Wars? No, but it doesn't have to be. It's its own thing. It has its own flavor, again, its own spice. And I don't know. It was charming, delightful, super fun, and I look forward to talking about it in more detail with you in the very near future. So thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.